Welcome back to Local Body 2013 with our second group of candidates for this Tuesday night standing for your vote in the Central Ward. Let's meet them. Letitia Nicholas is a postgraduate science student, moved to Dunedin from Northland 5 years ago. She's involved in improving student housing and in the Generation Zero movement. She's standing under the Greater Dunedin ticket. Kim Mitchell is a mental health support worker. She recently moved back to Dunedin after 20 years living in Queensland, raising 4 children. She's a previous cafe owner and has been involved in various community projects and arts festivals. Lindsay Harrison is a business owner in Dunedin, which has seen him speak at conferences and win a Company Franchisee of the Year award. He has a background in youth and social work through church, scouting and te hora. And finally, Doug Hall. He's a company director and farmer. He's been involved in various environmental initiatives, including a partner in the new refuse recycling facility in Green Island. He believes strong business acumen is required on council. Now, for the first part of the show, each candidate will introduce themselves to you down the camera. Then it'll be followed up by a few questions from myself. Starting with the panel on the left, Letitia Nicholas. Tell us why you're standing for the Dunedin City Council this election.
Kia ora. So Letitia Nicholas here from the Greater Dunedin team. I'm offering a fresh youth voice and perspective towards the long-term future of Dunedin. Dunedin will be addressing many challenges in the coming years and under large financial constraints. This requires an approach that recognises innovation, collaboration and opportunities that play to our strengths. I support open dialogue, resourcefulness and quality community consultation while keeping a focus on the future. If you support me, vote 1 Letitia Nicholas. Thank you.
Letitia, excellent. Now, you're one of a number of younger candidates standing for election this time. What do you believe a youth voice is needed on council?
Well, yes, I think a youth voice is really important for the diversity of the city. We've got 120,000 people and young people make up roughly a fifth of the city, and a youth voice could pay lip service to that. I think also we need fresh ideas and innovation. We need to keep our grads along because we need to support the ageing workforce in Dunedin, and our youth voice could definitely help out with that.
So being just so young in your career, why do you want to give time or a challenge of council?
So I suppose I've had the privilege of working with a group, Generation Zero, that focuses a lot on the future for climate change, and I see that as being a very big both challenge and opportunity to our city, and knowing what I know, I feel like this is the best opportunity I have to make sure Dunedin can develop in a really positive and resilient way, and yeah.
Excellent. We'll hear more from you later this evening, Letitia. Thank you. Our second candidate in the second group this evening, Kim Mitchell. Kim, tell us why you're standing for council this election.
Thanks, Dave. I just think you need a new, energetic leader out on the council itself. I believe that we need some real good forward planning vision in the city. I'm working on what the community is all about, being realistic with the community and its current situations. And also having a constant listening ear out there. That seems to be the main thing. I intend on just making communication a lot better, getting our economic strategies happening and making the world just a better place to be, and Dunedin's going to be the best place to be.
So tell us why you moved back to Dunedin after quite a long period away.
It's home, and that was the main thing. I have family here, and it's also, there's something about Dunedin that brings you home. I'm actually 9th generation, so it's a bit of a history here as well.
Background in quite a variety of things, a cafe, community, arts festivals. Tell us what those skills would bring to council table.
As far as your event management and the business side of things, and the arts festival, it's bringing people into the town. It's also the tourism side. It's getting the youth out there and making them really, know what's out there and happening for them in Dunedin, and just making it's just such a good place to live.
Excellent.
It is, believe me, it is.
We'll hear more from Kim's enthusiasm later in the show. Third candidate, Lindsay Harrison. Tell us, Lindsay, why you're standing for the Dunedin City Council this election.
Thank you, Dave. And thank you for this opportunity to speak to the people of Dunedin. Firstly, why am I standing? I'm a grandfather. I've got 12 grandchildren that live in Dunedin, and I want them to be able to inherit a vibrant city that they're going to be able to easily find work and employment in it. To do that, though, we have to deal with debt. And that's why I'm standing, to make sure that we clear this debt that is actually strangling the city and its economic growth. Thank you.
Lindsay, as a business owner, obviously a busy time. What do you think about the challenges of council? Why are you looking to add that to your portfolio?
Well, as I just said, I believe I've got the skills that will enhance the rest of the councillors that will be there, in that I can deal with finances. I can help to support people in that area.
Do you think the council is generally going in the right direction in the last three years, or would you like to see a different tack?
I think, generally speaking, it is going in the right direction. I think it needs to put the foot down on spending and just hold off on that, and pay off more of the debt, the principal of the debt, rather than just the interest.
Excellent. And finally, we'll hear more from you, Lindsay, later on. And finally, Doug Hall, a fourth candidate in this group. Doug, tell us why you're standing for the Dunedin City Council this election.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I'm standing for council because what I've seen over the years is out of control spending. We need to get back to the basics. We need to look after our infrastructure, and we need to get rid of the massive debt the city has incurred. The problem the city is going to have is if interest rates lift in the next 2 years like they're predicted, we're going to have a bigger interest bill and have less money to pay off our debt.
Now, Doug, you're another busy person, company director and a farmer. What's decided that you want to add the challenges of council to that?
I've got good managers running the companies now, and I'm just looking for something to do to keep me occupied rather than me interfering with what they're doing. They're doing a very good job, and I think I can pass on my experience to help the city in a lot of their work.
You talk about strong business acumen being needed on council. Do you think it's lacking, or perhaps it's exiting council?
It's lacking and has been for a long time.
What sort of areas are they lacking in?
I think there's too much paperwork crosses the council desk for stamping that the council don't look into enough. Financial spending by staff needs to be looked at before it's signed off to be spent, and see where it is actually being spent is at the best place.
Excellent. Doug Hall, hear more from you later in the show. Now that's you've heard from the candidates' initial period on why they're standing for the Dunedin City Council this election. After the break, we'll put questions to them, including the vibrancy of the Central Business District. Back in a moment. Welcome back to Local Body 2013 with our second group of candidates this evening, standing in the Central Ward, Letitia Nicholas, Kim Mitchell, Lindsay Harrison and Doug Hall. Firstly, a question to all candidates. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing Dunedin City over the next 3 years? And I'll start from the left with Letitia.
So I think the biggest challenges will be balancing massive financial constraints with adapting and mitigating to challenges that we're going to have in the future. I think the both can happen at the same time, and I think it requires a collaborative approach with active partnerships, and I think it means looking for innovation and utilising what strengths we already have. We've got two massive institutions with high skill level, high knowledge, and I think if we can develop what we have and the opportunities that we have, we can come up with something really good to address those challenges in the coming 3 years. And obviously I'm looking much further than 3 years.
Excellent. Kim Mitchell, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing the Dunedin City Council in the next 3 years?
It's gaining economical growth, and it's dealing with the people themselves. There are also dealing with the other destructional things that have happened, and actually fixing what can be fixed and moving on from there. So it's listening and communicating.
Mm-hmm. Lindsay, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing the city in the next 3 years?
First and foremost, the financial debt. That has to be paid back. And, excuse me. Then secondly, we need to grow the city. We need to grow it economically. And to do that, we need to get our business people together with some of these innovative young people and couple them together and get this city growing and prospering again.
Doug Hall, watching from the outside, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing in the next 3 years?
The finance of the city are a major problem. We have to readdress them. As I said before, interest rates change, going to be harder to pay our debt back. We just need to look at creating more jobs. To do that, I think we have to look at the consenting process the city has got in place. I know of 2 companies that come from Christchurch to relocate into Dunedin. On their first visit to the city's planning, they were told it would take at least 12 months to get consents. They went elsewhere in the country and they were up and running within 6 weeks.
Now let's pick up on that debt issue. It's the large long-term debt issue is one that's being mentioned by many candidates this campaign, both the council debt and the council company, holding company's debt. Given the spending restrictions and the budgetary restrictions of the council, what projects would you like to see the council pursue or actively look at in the next period? Letitia.
I think working out how we can efficiently and effectively implement the strategies that we already have coming through council, so the spatial plan, the transport strategy and some of the other plans as well. I think we can deal with the debt and keep a focus on the future. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive, and in fact that you have to have them balanced, because what we're doing under the Local Government Act is making sure that we have a resilient city for future generations, and having tunnel vision on one thing is not catering to the rest of the things that we have to do.
Kim, large debt, what projects do you think we should be pursuing, or is there room?
It would be one aspect is the Forsyth Bar, of course. Since I've come back, a lot of people have said to me, the debt with Forsyth Bar. Maybe looking at paying the interest rather than paying the principal, and actually leaving some money happening for things to become infrastructured into the actual city that will help along the way. Also our green footprint, just getting out there with our wind, our solar, even though it isn't that sunny sometimes, it does allow, looking at what other cities do. Get out there and see what is happening out in the world and what other cities are happening. Lindsay,
what do you see in terms of, you've talked about the long-term debt, does that mean there's any room for any more spending?
Very little room. There is a surplus of about 5 million from the district plan. That is going to be very, very quickly eaten up into policies that are already here. Personally, I believe we should be taking 20% of that and using that to pay off principal. Mm-hmm. Taking 20% of that will save the council and the city over 20 years about 2 million in interest alone.
Doug Hall, you have mentioned debt as well. Is there much we can do about what the debt that's already there, or stopping accumulating much more?
Well, we've got to look at smart ways of reducing our debt. We look at the forestry has started to return a good dividend. Going by what I've heard, that the holding company will be releasing their annual balance sheet, and it's meant to be looking quite good. So until we see that, we won't really know what we've got.
Let's pick up on a related issue that relates to the economy. Dunedin's Central Business District, walking through the city, various empty shops and buildings vacant. Is the Central Business District thriving? And if not, what's holding it back? I'll start with Lindsay this time. What do you think about the business district in terms of councils, what council can do?
I think the important thing is to promote the city as a destination for people to come. Perhaps even by new businesses coming in, that they get free rates for, say, 3 years, so that they can really set up and be very productive immediately, rather than being caught up with council costs. Resource consent, as Doug was talking about, speed that up so that we can get that whole area up and running quickly.
Doug, what should the council be doing to promote more in the business district?
I think parking is a big thing that has to be changed. I just come back from Nelson. You can park anywhere in Nelson. You've got a time restriction on what you park, but you do not pay parking fees.
Excellent. Letitia, what do you think about that issue?
Well, From my perspective, I think that the council could be facilitating and working collaboratively with local businesses to get them into those spaces. I think it's really good to be able to support local business and the community. I think we can also look at interesting designs of city centres to see how we can get more people into those businesses. So looking at things like New York and how they made it a more safe cycling space, which actually increased business by about 46% comparative to other streets. So looking at interesting case studies overseas is probably another good way to go.
Now, Kim, you've run a cafe for many years. Do you think councils, and particularly this council, are responsive to local businesses?
Yes, except for the red tape that goes across the desks. That would be something that I would look at in that sort of side of things. And just incentives. Major incentives, because you're dealing with people, families, and, Dunedin actually even dealing with the cruise ships coming on. I know it's a seasonal thing, but there's so much life here. It's a people issue.
Kim, thank you. We've got more to come from our last set of 4 candidates this evening. After the break, we'll be discussing cycleways and the issue of drilling. Back in a moment. Welcome back to Local Body 2013. More questions for our second set of candidates this evening. We'll start with the issue of cycleways. Now, there's been a big increase in spending and focus on cycleways around the city in the current term, with more to come, potentially at the loss of some inner city parking. Kim Mitchell, I'll start with you this time. What do you think about cycleways and how that relates to parking? And
I've actually talked to quite a few people about the cycleways side of things, and the safety, it seems to be the major thing in that. We seem to be doing an okay job at starting to make progress there, and it's just keeping everybody safe on the roads, especially, the parents, kids, the whole safety issue. So, yes.
Lindsay, cycleways, are they important for the city?
I think there's two types, two parts to this. One part of this is the ones that are going out onto the peninsula, areas like that, which are great for tourism, and I think we should definitely work on those. Ones within the city, I think we need to take a very hard look at. Any cyclist who goes down what is State Highway 1 is taking their life in their own hands. Doug will talk to you about trucks and cycles. I won't even go there. That's yours, Doug. But it's just crazy to even think about putting a cyclist in or close to where trucks are travelling. We have other roads there that are available that cyclists could use.
Doug Hall, more spending on cycleways, and particularly if that means losing some parks in the city.
As a transport operator in the city, a reasonably large one, I think the city should be looking at trucks and cyclists, not cars and cyclists. The cars will fit in the middle. We've got to sort out the trucks and cyclists, and we can't have them on the same roads. Because driving trucks, you can't see cyclists.
Letitia, how do you think about that? Is cycleways the answer?
I think cycleways are one potential way to fix our transport system problem. I think it's remained at the status quo for a bit too long, and it's not catering to the needs of the city anymore. I think cycleways is one part, and I know that it's been planned quite a lot in consultation with the community, and it is something that they want. So I think it's quite a good, coming to a good solution there.
Excellent. A couple of quick-fire questions to each of our candidates. I'll come to Lindsay for this first. Some voters have told us they're looking for bold new thinking from the next council. What's one bold plan or idea that you would like to promote if elected to council? Lindsay?
I think the one thing I would like to do, and I spoke briefly about it, is look towards our young people that are just setting up homes, businesses that are coming into the city, people that are relocating into the city, and give them a break with their rates. Perhaps even that money that instead of paying the rates, that goes off their mortgage, so that it helps them financially further down track. That would be one of the initiatives that I would be looking at to make this a more vibrant city.
Excellent. Doug, one big idea for the city?
Recycling. We've gone so far in recycling, we can go a long way further. Into the landfill, the percentage of stuff that goes into the landfill, I've estimated we could take 80% of that out and recycle it. Household waste needs to be picked up separately and needs to be turned into vermicast, worm farming. The balance, we then haven't got a major problem getting rid of. We can close our landfills.
Another quick fire question to our two ladies this evening. Every election there's talk of more consultation and engagement with the community. How do you feel that's gone, and what could be done better in terms of engaging with the council and the community? Letitia.
So I think that council could approach different communities in a way that they understand information. So for a student community, maybe they use the internet quite a lot, so using that kind of forum and things like that. I think planning in advance what you're going to do means that you can have quality consultation. It's not rushed and it's not missing out anything, and I think that's pretty key.
Kim, public meetings obviously often attract few people, but what's the answer in terms of engaging with the council?
It's getting it out there and on telly, media, that sort of thing, and asking people what they actually want, and that's the communication side of things. The forums have been really good, even though some public do not come to it. Is the questions that are being asked are really relevant, and it's a reality check for a lot of people.
Excellent.
Okay.
Another question back to all candidates this evening. It was announced recently that Anadarko is set to drill a 129 New Zealand million test well off the coast of Otago Peninsula next January, with the hopes of striking reserves of natural gas or maybe oil. Shell's also considering test drilling. Is that, for the candidates, something you would welcome? Now, I'll start with Lindsay this time. Is that something you would welcome, drilling off the peninsula?
Yes. Yes, definitely. I think we've got to look at it and say that for me it's an ethical thing. I use a car, we use plastics. Why should we turn around and say, yeah, we'll use it, but we won't have it in our backyard? I think we've got to be honest about it and say, we're end users, we should be producers.
Doug Hall, is the idea of drilling for natural gas or oil something you favour?
Yes, it has to happen. You know, the country need the resource, and if we don't use our resource we've got here, we're going to have to buy it in, and it's just making a bigger debt for the country as a whole.
Letitia, drilling for the city?
From the evidence I've seen, I can't support it. It won't create the jobs that we want, and both oil companies have not made any commitment to having those jobs here. Based on climate change, we already have 5 times as much fossil fuels as we need, and in fact we should be taking advantage of opportunities we have locally and in the rest of New Zealand to meet our energy demands. And I think being end users, we can easily transition, or not easily, but we can transition, and planning for that, forward thinking, will help address that.
Kim, what do you think for drilling potential off the coast of Otago Peninsula?
I have to agree. The girls on this side, and sorry boys on the other side, yes, they've said 5,000 jobs. Yes, there will be some jobs, but I can't see it happening in Dunedin itself. I can see us actually giving them supplies and so forth, but they have to be specialised people that come on board there. We have enough fossil fuels to sink a ship. Basically, let's keep the planet the way it is. We have the most amazing shoreline and that, and even though they say gas, there will be other stuff that goes back into our waterways. I'm saddened by it all. I think we can do better. We have so much infrastructure happening with the university and so forth. We need to use the gurus in our world, and we need to keep this planet for our youth.
Excellent. Thank you to all our panellists. That's all we've got time to fit in questions for this evening. Thanks to our second set of candidates, Letitia Nicholas, Kim Mitchell, Lindsay Harrison and Doug Hall. Thank you for joining us all this evening. Now that's all we've got time for this evening, but remember we're with you every night at 7:30 with our local body election coverage. Tomorrow night, Wednesday, we have 8 more candidates looking for your vote in the Central Ward. Get out there and vote, Dunedin. Remember, it's your vote that will determine who runs the country, who runs the city for the next 3 years.